GearNetwork.com.
The following is a presentation of the Gear Radio Network.
From wherever we decide studios, broadcasted live on iTunes, Spreaker, and worldwide, this is the Turnbuckle Talk Radio Podcast with your host, the producer, Pat G. The G stands for Gangsta. And now kick back and get ready for the eargasms.
Welcome to the TTRP Turnbuckle Talk Radio Podcast, episode 77 on this blustery October day as we are about a week away from Halloween. And next week, we're going to have a special show for you as we talk about our favorite moments of Halloween havoc.
Oh, hell yeah. You throw in some Halloween havoc and you just got my attention completely peaked.
I was gonna tell you in the message that's what we were gonna do next week, but I was like, you know what? I'm gonna save it for the intro.
Oh, hell yeah. Hell to the yeah.
But this week, we have tons of stuff to talk about, and we're gonna kick off with a little bit of trolling first, because Randy Orton Randall Keith Orton, RKO, of course, tweeted a picture on Instagram with him in front of a sign that said Elite Level, and he tagged some people in it. And this led the internet wrestling community astir. Because, oh my God, is Randy Orton going to go to AEW? And because Randy Orton's contract is coming up soon, and also AEW offers a lighter schedule, and Randy Orton has said that he's very impressed with what they've been doing with AEW Dynamite so far. And of course, it would be a big name for AEW to get. Kind of, maybe even a little bit bigger than one Chris Jericho.
First off, I am a fan of Randy Orton's trolling power, because when Bubba Ray Dudley made fun of diving, he dived. And in fact, I believe his stepson was diving into a pool and he gave him an RKO.
Yes.
Which was hilarious.
Yes.
Okay.
And also his own wife has given him an RKO, like, on a beach.
Yeah, like, they're ridiculously cute. And then you add on to his love of John Cena.
Yep. And
his constant trolling of The Rock on social media. And now you take it to this level where could Randy Orton jump to do the AEW, the switch? Do I see it happening? Plausible. Heavily plausible. And the reason that I say plausible is because Randy is one of the few guys that has been around since the beginning of the Ruthless Aggression era in 2002. Here you're coming up on, he's been with WWE for almost 20 years now, like 18 years, okay?
Yep.
At what point do you say to yourself, much like Taz did with his tenure in ECW, okay, I've done everything. I've main evented. He's main evented
Mania.
2 WrestleManias.
He's won the Royal Rumble. He's won the King of the Ring.
He's done all of this phenomenal stuff. I think he's won a couple of Royal Rumbles. Like,
yeah,
he's done all of this stuff, minus being going in the Hall of Fame, which will happen, obviously later in life. He's achieved pretty much every level of success. And his relationship with Cody Rhodes, when people, attacked Randy Orton for making fun of the Bullet Club hand signal, and Cody was like, fuck no, like, I respect him. I love this guy. He taught me stuff that I'm using now.
Exactly. Because it was two third generation guys.
Exactly, and they got along smashingly. To me, if Randy Orton made the jump, it would be very good on multiple levels for the talent involved. First off, we could get dream matches like Kenny Omega versus Randy Orton.
Oh yeah, and Orton has already said he would love to have a match with Sammy Guevara, which that right there would do leaps and bounds for Guerrero's career.
Exactly. You have already established talent that he's worked with, Moxley or Jack, or Jake. Sorry.
Or Jericho to a degree.
Yeah, Jericho and he have a great relationship. In fact, they've even said it that one of the reasons that Jericho got in the altercation with Brock Lesnar is because Jericho is friends with Randy Orton, and he thought that he went out there and hurt his friend. And you have to give the balls of Jericho at 5'10", 5'11" to go up against fucking that mountain of a human being. Would I like to see him? Yes, I would like to see Randy Orton show up. Do I want to see Randy Orton continue to troll everybody? Abso-friggin-lutely. He is just marvelous at his ability of posting one simple, stupid thing and having everyone in a tizzy.
Oh, absolutely. Randy Orton has perfected the troll game to no end.
And mind you, his trolling could get him a match with The Rock.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, I think that everyone would love to see that dream match. Whether it would happen or not, that's to be said. I mean, I think we'd see Triple H versus The Rock before we'd see Randy Orton versus The Rock. And really, that's the one singles match, dream match, that fans did not get.
Yeah.
Because, we got John Cena versus
The Rock.
CM Punk versus The Rock.
Yeah. And that's the thing, granted, yes, Randy Orton and The Rock have been in the ring at the same time, but that was at WrestleMania 20, and it was The Rock and Sock Connection versus Evolution. It wasn't The Rock versus Randy Orton.
And it wasn't Randy Orton as a completely, evolved pun.
Oh, no, not at all.
Who absolutely knows his role, and his role at this point is he can take anyone he's working with and just bump them up to a level that is superior to what they were at. And then he can just hang out in the mid-card. Like, he doesn't mind being opening match and just doing his shit, making it look effortless, and then 2 months later, 3 months later, he's in the title picture again, and he's in the main event, and he's got your attention by just how good he still is.
Oh, absolutely. And that's the thing. Well, speaking upon AEW, we've got to the 4th week mark here since AEW debuted, and AEW's ratings have been very strong, averaging a little over 1 million viewers per week. And the question is, a lot of people believe AEW can keep this pace up, but they can't keep the pace up without making certain changes. Honestly, AEW is doing the right thing. They're building up their younger talent while keeping the established talent in the pictures that they need to be in.
Who are these people that don't like what they're doing 3 weeks into something? You have to. Okay, I'm glad you laughed at that because it is a very laughable statement.
It is.
Let me ask you something. You're 3 fucking episodes. There's my one F-bomb for the show.
Yep.
You're 3 episodes in, guys. What more do you want them to change? Because to me, I looked at the main event of last week's show where we had the Painmaker, Chris Jericho. Okay.
Yep.
Was more than generous with Darby Allin. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I want you to go back and watch that match from an objective eye. Ignore the fact that it's Chris Jericho. And no, don't ignore the fact that it's Chris Jericho, because we know what Chris Jericho's role in professional wrestling is. He shows up, he puts young talent over, makes them look amazing, goes back on tour, drinks, makes funny videos.
Yep.
Okay. Chris Jericho went out there as the Painmaker, who reinvented his career a couple years ago by starting this gimmick. All right? Took a kid who no one, other than your diehard wrestling fans, okay, your regular 9-to-5 wrestling fans probably didn't know who Alan was before he went out there. And he took this kid and let him shine in a way that I don't think a Cody Rhodes versus him or or a John Moxley versus him, or Joey Janela versus Allen match would work.
Yeah.
Because he's not at they are at a level. They're not at Jericho level.
Yeah, exactly.
The cool part about it is the kid wrestled a majority of the match with his hands behind his back.
Yeah. And also Darby Allin, he came out and he's like, listen, I want to have a rematch without the bullshit.
Yeah.
Because, of course, as we all saw, Jake Hager came out and got himself interfered, and it led to Jericho winning, which is the typical heel faction nonsense. But it's the thing of Jericho made the kid a star that match.
Exactly. And if people are complaining about the format where they're not letting the young guys shine, I call BS, because most of the people on that roster are young guys that are learning how to shine. Everyone from Jungle Boy all the way up to Cuerva, and to some extent, even some of the top names on the show are not everyday names that people know in professional wrestling.
Not at all.
I mean, you have to remember, AEW is starting to put elbows into the lexicon of entertainment in the fact that, Jericho is drumming that drum, and you have them at the New York Comic-Con, and they're getting their names out there. Their advertisements are being seen all over the place in New York City,
Yep.
Your publication.
They got promotion last night on TNT during the NBA game.
Exactly. The movies. I went to see Joker, and they had a mini spot at the beginning for AEW. And I'm sitting here and I'm just like, this company's gonna boom. Remember, Monday Nitro, in its first 9 months. No, let's go 8 months. First 8 months from September 1995 until, let's go with May. Okay, May, when Scott Hall showed up.
Yeah.
That you have to remember, they had stuff like Taskmaster Kevin Sullivan trying to steal Hulk Hogan's soul with the Dungeon of Doom. And they had
the Dungeon of Doom.
They had Ric Flair having dinner with Miss Elizabeth, spending all of the divorce money of the Macho Man.
Yep.
They had some hokey shit. But in that hokiness, they had great matches. You had Flying Brian Pillman was really taking off as the loose cannon during that time.
You had the beginnings of the Cruiserweight division.
Absolutely. You had all of these pieces start falling into place. If in 3 weeks you're like, they need to change their format, then I think what you need to do is you need to walk up to your mirror and you need to punch yourself in the face.
Well,
the reason I want you to do it in front of your mirror is so that you can see how stupid you look.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the thing is, a lot of keyboard warriors, so to speak, are, well, can they keep the rating? Blah, 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 blah. You also have guys that have been in the business for 20, 30 years that have opinions, a.k.a. Russo, that say that AEW's only marketing to the wrestling marks and not the masses. My friend, nothing against Vince Russo. Was he partially responsible for one of the greatest eras in wrestling? Yes, he was. But at the end of the day, we all know the man behind the Attitude Era. Plain and simple. But
absolutely, it was Bruce Pritchard.
Exactly. But it is 2019. Pro wrestling is still an athletic sport, but it has entertainment value to it. And in the time that we are in 2019, you can apply what your product to the masses, but it takes the masses to follow the dedicated people first.
And I will 100% wholeheartedly agree with you. And the one thing that gets me is it's a different era, it's a different time, and more importantly than that, I believe fans will flock to good product as long as the product is worth their time. And we have discussed this on this podcast, and I've talked to other people about this. There's 24 hours in a day, ladies and gentlemen. If I'm going to lose sleep to watch something, it better be worth my time. And right now, over 1 million people a week are tuning in to TNT live. And then, of course, not even including the playback on like the TNT app. And of course, the flooding on Facebook watching the videos.
Yep.
You know, AEW is gaining traction. Could they end up with like a 2.4 or even a 3? Or I mean, we could see a 4. Sure, it's completely possible. You get the right pieces at the right time, and you can completely have a show that is viable and a show that not only draws sponsors, but by drawing sponsors, you also draw fans.
Oh.
By drawing fans, you grow your product. I mean, I don't think that they need to be doing a bunch of house shows right off the rip. If that's what people are worried about, don't do it. But by all means, keep it once a week, and then your stars can go to, you know, AAA and win championship belts to bring to television on Wednesday.
Yeah, and the thing is with AEW, honestly, I don't think they need to do house shows just yet, because they kind of have a perfect formula right now. Everybody know, like, for the most part, the dedicated wrestling fans know who AEW is. They know what it's about. But the thing is, you got to also remember, AEW has the AEW Dark, which is the show that gets shown on YouTube on Tuesdays, that the last 2 weeks have had some amazing matches. Because, like we said, like we talked the last podcast, there was the Kenny Omega Joey Janela match.
Oh my God, yeah.
And then just last night, there was an 8-man tag match where it was Dustin and Cody with the Young Bucks versus Private Party, SEMA, and someone else.
Yeah.
And it was an amazing 8-man tag.
And if that's your way of building this, and if this is one of your avenues, is this, you know, AEW Dark, you know, which kind of sounds kind of cool if you ask me, because there's Justice League Dark, there's Avengers Dark, you know, or Dark Avengers, you know, it's like you're adding a little spin to it to make it, you know, do it. Because if you already have the content in the can, why not show it to the masses?
Exactly.
I mean, it's a couple extra minutes of television. You know, are they really losing out? Because you have to remember, I mean, we've discussed the Nitro book that was done. And what people seem to forget about the WCW, the death of, is that WCW paid to have their content put on TNT. TNT and Turner didn't pay them, which is the weirdest fucking contract. Sorry, word number 2. If you think about it, because essentially you own the company, yet you're making the company pay you to be on television. What? At least with AEW, they're getting paid to put the production out there. And that is outstanding. And it's giving these guys an opportunity to really put the pedal to the metal. I mean, we have matchups that can happen that, you know, I think could be best of the year. I mean, next year, AEW is going to have its pro wrestlers in the PWI, you know, 500 in the top 10 because of matches that you see on television like we have been seeing recently. And, of course, their pay-per-views.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And this is the thing, is even speaking more on AEW and rotating into that Wednesday night thing with NXT, Triple H recently gave an interview recently, and he's like, I really hope that they can bring the best project they can for fans. The interview, of course, from the Sporting News, so credit the Sporting News for the interview. And he talked about the Wednesday Night War, and he said, it's a funny thing, I don't hear anybody going, the Tuesday night sitcom wars are off the chart. It's just a genre of entertainment, and a way to say that this war, first of all, for me, it comes down to putting on the best show. And I've been saying this over and over since day one. We've been on Wednesdays on the network. Since day one, I've thought about trying to make each show better than the one before, trying to raise talent to another level, trying to make this product the best it can be a while embracing its difference from Raw and from SmackDown and everything else that's out there. We have had the opportunity for 5 years in or whatever it is to stay in our time slot, go to number one cable channel on television and expand it so there's more opportunity for everybody. But the goal is the same. It doesn't matter to me if there's another show on the same night. So while he says AEW is there, he doesn't really look at AEW as competition.
You know, it's funny. His perspective is different than Vince McMahon.
Oh, absolutely.
And you have heard Vince McMahon do interviews where he talks about the first Nitro at Mall of America in Minneapolis.
Yeah, and he basically is quoted as,
"Oh, this is real competition."
Yeah, he saw the production value and the fact that they signed Hogan and had the star that they do. I honestly don't think it was because of Hogan. I think it was because they had an amazing setup at the Mall in America, and your first freaking match of Monday Nitro was Brian Pillman versus Juice and Thunder Liger.
Exactly. And you go back and you watch that first Nitro. Okay, so you had Big Bubba Rogers versus Hulk Hogan.
Yep.
Mind you, the Pastamania thing.
You had Sting versus Ric Flair with the surprise appearance of Lex Luger.
You had Arn Anderson was in there. You had Macho Man was involved. You had all of this cool stuff going on with this, first Nitro. But Vince realized, okay, this is competition. So, we're going to have to work a little harder here in WWF. He acknowledged that it was competition. Triple H doesn't seem to acknowledge that AEW is competition.
Yep.
He acknowledges that they exist.
Yeah.
It might bite him in the ass, but then again, you have to look at the differences of people, where Vince McMahon was the sole owner of WWF at the time, and he had to be vigilant.
Oh, absolutely.
Triple H doesn't have to be as vigilant because he's not the number one head.
He's not the guy.
He's not the guy. He's a guy. He's a pivotal guy.
Oh, yeah.
He helped create one of the most successful brands in professional wrestling, being NXT. And I'm sure to him, anyone who's trying to compete against NXT, he's of course going to, give his baby more love. But I think that he might want to start looking at it from the same perspective as Vince did, in that eventually, if you do what WWF didn't and you don't prepare yourself for the potential of getting knocked on your ass, then it's really gonna hurt 83 weeks later.
Yeah. Well, going back to the interview we were talking about, he was asked about on NXT paving the way for AEW success, and Triple H quoted, "I don't mean to knock what they are or anybody else is doing, but in a way, NXT created the template to show them that this can be done. The question is, can they continue to do that? It's one thing to take athletes and put them in the ring and go, just do crazy shit and see what you come up with. Fans will tune in, but they won't stay because it'll lose its luster after a while. You've seen it."
I believe that he's referring to is ECW.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Triple H has always been kind of down on ECW, but he's mocked it in interviews and like behind the scenes things that he's like done for Access and whatnot.
Yeah.
Okay? Let him say what he's got to say about it. Okay. But if you want to look at things from a certain perspective, NXT is a more polished ECW.
Oh, absolutely.
Debuted on the network in 2014. You can go back to, the We Are NXT and this us versus them mentality that they have orchestrated, whether organic or not, within the WWE system.
Yep.
I like NXT. Fuck Raw. Forget SmackDown. They're all owned. Yeah, but this one's different.
Yep. Yeah.
You get what I'm saying here. That's that's the same perspective that that ECW fans had in that heyday. So for him to say that they just replicated it, potentially, or what they did is that they saw on the independents how shows were done. They all rode together and talked together, much like the Clique did. And then instead of biding their time through different wrestling promotions, they showed that they could do it with All In, and they ended up having an interested buyer, Tony Khan, and enough star power, Chris Jericho, Kenny Omega, to get enough people, TNT, to want to jump on board and put money, dynamite, behind this wrestling product.
Yep.
And if you look at it from a perspective, if it spawned from NXT, that's great. You know what else helped create NXT? Dusty Rhodes. And you know what spawned from Dusty Rhodes? The two guys who were over there in AEW.
Yep. And the thing is in the interview, he's asked on how AEW can keep viewers, which we've talked about, and we are talking about. And Triple H quoted, "What will make people stay is the characters and the storylines. If they can create that, then they can be successful. In the short term, it's easy to make a moment and spectacle and have people look and watch. To continue that long term and have it grow is a lot more difficult. I've seen that historically prove out with WCW and everybody else under the sun. Time will tell." So, and the thing is so far in the first 3 weeks, and you can even go back further than that, AEW's developed characters and they've made storylines.
They were making storylines on being the elite.
Oh, yeah.
They have made storylines on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook. They have made storylines at independent wrestling shows leading up to Double or Nothing and other events. For me, AEW is doing a bang-up job at getting fans interested and invested in the characters that they are putting on television. And in fact, when you have presidential candidates talking about your product, do remember Andrew Yang, presidential candidate, Elizabeth Warren, presidential candidate. Both of them tweeted about AEW's success with Double or Nothing and how you can take a new product and shoot for the moon. And AOC tweeted about the diversity because you had
and the inclusivity
and how this is what sports needs. She's one of the hottest politicians out there. Whether you agree with her stance on on policy or not, she is recognizable, and her word is being seen by millions of people, and those millions of people are saying, "What is AEW?"
Exactly.
They're making the right noise, and I do agree 100%. Character development. Well, they got the wrestlers. Now they just need time, and much like a diamond, diamonds come from coal and pressure. Let's see if the pressure that they are on Wednesday nights on primetime television on a major network will present diamonds, or if it'll just present dust.
Yep. And that's the thing, is if you look at the first 3 weeks, you've had, and before AEW Dynamite debuted, people were like, "Oh, it's just going to be like, blah, blah, blah. Omega's going to be over, and the Young Bucks are going to be over, and Cody's going to be the champion, blah, 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 blah." And in the first 3 weeks, the Young Bucks are out of the tag team title picture because they lost in the tournament. You've had Chris Jericho put on two hell great championship matches with two very different opponents. You've had a developing storyline that Jericho being champion has now created this faction around him of younger guys that he can elevate, along with someone that may have not been used the best way in the WWE and Jake Hager. And then you have, on the flip side of that, you have the quote unquote elite, Cody, Omega, the Young Bucks. Now, while they're not siding with Cody just yet because they have their attention elsewhere, Omega with Moxley, the Young Bucks with whoever and whatnot. It's the thing of AEW's created 5 or 6 different storylines in 3 weeks that you don't know which way they're going to go.
And, one might find them confusing. Me, personally, I don't find them confusing because it's professional wrestling. Everything is intertwined. For God's sakes, wait till LAX goes against Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus. Money.
Oh, absolutely. And the thing is last week when the Pentagon and Phoenix faced Marco Stunt and Jungle Boy, because Luchasaurus being injured, people were getting on Marco Stunt because of him being tiny, and Jericho being Jericho, breaking that character that he's built and going, hey guys, just because he's 4'8" doesn't mean anything, because Rey Mysterio, Dean Malenko, Eddie Guerrero, and many others.
And that's the one thing, I've always said, leadership comes from the top, and how your leaders represent the company says volumes. Chris Jericho is someone who is so well respected amongst wrestling fans and wrestlers that when people start taking guys to task, Chris Jericho has these enormous balls. And Chris Jericho, in his leather pants and his spiky jacket, isn't afraid to look up and say, hey, douchebag, remember these guys that you put on pedestals and say, oh, I love their stuff? Well, they were considered midgets by guys like Kevin Nash and Scott Hall, who you also idolize. So, you have to look at it from a certain perspective. Chris Jericho will go on social media, completely rip people apart, and remind you about the history of pro wrestling because he has seen it all.
Yeah.
He is going into 4 decades of this.
And the thing is Chris Jericho has wrestled in Canada, the United States, Mexico, Japan, Germany, England. He has a plethora of his near 4 decades worth of wrestling, of different styles and talent and ability, that he has seen it all. And then on top of that, being a pro wrestler, has been able to go out into a further of the world, becoming a rock star and a pop culture icon.
I mean, I'll 100% agree to all that. I'll agree to not only all of that, I'll agree to every single thing you just said, plus some. I mean, dude posted a video the other day of his cameo in Jay and Silent Bob Reboot, and people are talking about Jericho's acting chops.
Yep.
Jericho can now go and do Kevin Smith comedies, and his character acting is hilarious. I mean, spoiler alert, he plays a Grand Wizard Klansman. But done.
Yeah.
You have my money.
Yeah.
This may be better than Don Johnson's Big Daddy in Django Unchained.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. And the thing is professional wrestling is athletics and it's sports and everything, but you also got to have a little bit of character and a little bit of, and being able to act a certain way.
Yes.
Jericho has that.
Jericho has that in, spades. Jericho has that, and he's teaching that. That's more importantly. He's teaching that to the younger people.
Yep.
So that they understand what it means to be able to last in professional wrestling longer than just a couple of matches and one big which is something that he wanted to do in, New Japan, and teach them, hey, don't do this because, longevity in your career.
Yep.
And now he can do that in AEW, where he can tell a Darby Allin, it's like, yeah, your coffin drop, you might want to not do it with a barrel on your back on steel steps if you want to walk when you're 40.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is also, before we get into the break here, is with Chris Jericho, there's been already talks about him going back to New Japan Pro Wrestling for Wrestle Kingdom 14, because he still hasn't had that quote-unquote ending match with Naito.
He hasn't had the Naito match, but also his match with the Rainmaker Okada ended with Tanahashi interrupting his post-match beatdown of Okada. I would love to see Tanahashi versus Jericho. And yes, I would love to see Naito versus Jericho as well. But, I mean, Wrestle Kingdom is a couple months away, and this is the time to start gearing up for it.
Yep.
And, let's hope that we see Moxley and Jericho over there together.
And the thing is Moxley had to relinquish the IWGP US title, which is now being held by Lance Archer. But also Moxley has the beef with Juice Robinson. Yeah.
And that would be a killer match to see at Wrestle Kingdom. Well worth the $10 a month.
Oh, absolutely. And especially if it's in a triple threat form with Archer, Robinson, and Moxley. Yeah.
God, take my money.
Money. But that's going to do it for the first half. In the second half, we're going to talk something a little personal to our own Sergeant Fury, of course. And we're going to get into some news and notes here around wrestling and everything. But keep it locked. You are listening to the TTRP. I'm Pat G. That's Sergeant Fury. Keep it locked. Ladies and gentlemen, it is Pat G from the Turnbuckle Talk Radio podcast. And no, we're not talking pro wrestling today, but we are talking sports hoodies, NFL, NBA, MLB, NHL, soccer, and much more. And this is brought to you by houseofhoodies.com, a new sponsor here at the TTRP. You can visit thehouseofhoodies.com and pick up your favorite team's merchandise. They have current players, former players, or you can customize your own hoodie, whether it be the NBA, NHL, MLB, and the NFL. After you're done shopping, use the promo code TTR Podcast and you will get 15% off your order. That's TTR Podcast for 15% off at thehouseofhoodies.com. And we're back here on the TTRP. Thank you for listening. Of course, visit our sponsor, houseofhoodies.com. Get 15% off the hoodie purchase of your favorite sports team, NFL, NBA, NHL, and more. 15% off using the code TTR Podcast. But we are back here. In the first half, we talked about AEW potentially keeping their ratings. Of course, we talked about the lovely trolling skills of Randy Orton and Triple H being asked about the differences of NXT and AEW. But right now we're going to get to something a little personal to our own Sergeant Fury, as this upcoming weekend is his final match in professional wrestling, as he's going out big because it is a cage match. Right now, how do you feel about it being a cage match?
It's funny. I can't believe I'm on the other side of the interview process on a podcast. It's kind of weird. I'm one of my own. It's kind of weird. I feel nervous, obviously. This coming from someone who has done everything from dog collar matches to street fights, hardcore matches, table matches. Obviously there's a different element of danger and excitement when you mention steel cage, and of course the history that big feuds end in steel cages. And as strange as it sounds, it's a bit of finality, because I didn't want to go out ever in wrestling either just knowing I can't do it anymore, I just don't move the same way, but I also didn't want to go out just having a regular ass match and kind of going out like that. I thought, okay, well, let's see how it goes. And the way that this is, all the puzzle pieces have fallen in that, World of Hurt Wrestling is one of the best promotions in the Northeast. They always provide an outstanding product wherever they are. I mean, their home base is out of Whitehall, New York, in the Whitehall Athletic Club, which is a beautiful venue. And I mean, I've seen it packed to the gills, no exaggeration. They've brought in Hall of Famers for special occasions, VIP packages. And last month when this match was announced, they had Enzo there for a special meet and greet. And I mean, the place was packed to meet Enzo, and we've done this, for several shows in recent time. This is a Monster Mania, which is one of their big shows of the year every year. And the show is resting on the shoulders of 4 guys for the main event with no name on the card. We are the names that are going to draw the fans. And for me, I guess you could say it's surreal, and it's also affirming that everything that I've done for that company over the last 7 years has been well worth it in order for them to say, we trust you and this match to bring in the fans.
Oh, absolutely. Now, of course, you being one of the names for this match, who are the other 3 names, and what is your history with each of these men?
Okay, so this is a tag team main event in a steel cage, which some would be like, what? I'm like, yeah. It is the World of Hurt heavyweight champion, Tyler Payne, and the United States champion, Sergeant Fury, going against the Alden Murder House. And my history basically boils down to, with Tyler, I've actually wrestled against him, but recently he's seen, the darker side, and he wants to let the fans know that, thanks for getting me to the dance, now piss off, which I like the attitude. He's a good kid, really athletic, really talented, no great head on his shoulders. I could see him going places. But with the Aldens, it's something different in the fact that they are worshipped at World of Hurt Wrestling. And for years now, I've heard their names. And in fact, I tell people this story. In 2004, when I was in Baghdad, I got a newspaper article about them. And because my neighbor knew I was a huge wrestling fan, and it was like, hey, I could train to be a pro wrestler. These guys are in Hudson Falls. This would be kind of cool. And, it just took a lot of years to get to it. And for me, this basically, Shane Alden is a great promoter. But this is between his brother and I, this particular match, and the fact that, he drapes himself in the macabre. He wears a John Wayne Gacy mask, the Pogo the Clown mask, out to the ring. He is adored by the fans. And for me, it's monster versus monster. And while I'm out there in a suit and $2,000 suit and tie, and I might not look like the monster, no, I don't need to wear a mask to show what I am. And the best part about that is what do you do with 4 personalities? 2 of them are draped in the macabre. One of them is a high-flying risk taker, and the other one is a war machine. Well, what do? You throw them in a cage, and the best team walks out that night. And having it be backdropped with Halloween,
yes,
it's right up my alley. So for this to be the last one, it's weird how the universe gives you gifts, and for the universe to say, okay, we appreciate what you've done. Now go out, give them one more great performance, and say goodbye, because it won't get any better than this.
That's basically what it comes down to, because, like you said, you've been at World of Hurt for 7 years, so the fans have kind of been on that journey with you to this moment.
it's been a strange journey because, I started wrestling in, really my first match was 2011. The company started back up in 2012. So really, I was green as goose poop going into that company, and I fought tooth and nail to try and get noticed in order to get any kind of traction. And the best part about it was it was the fans that wanted to see it. It was the fans that wanted to see me in that company. They really pushed for it. And then the best part was that the moment I was given the opportunity and fans and the promotion got to see what I could do, I'm in there sparring verbally with Dalton Castle, former Ring of Honor World Heavyweight Champion. And there were a lot of people in the crowd that were shocked. And they're like, wow, even some of the guys in the back were like, that was a great promo. I'm like, what promo? I just went out there and talked. It's like I didn't have anything written down. I was out there with Dalton Castle. I knew I had to be good.
Oh, absolutely.
And from there, it's been a snowball effect. And the cool part about it is to end with this promotion. And really, this is the promotion that when I wanted to get into independent wrestling in 2004 was what I saw in the distance. And all of a sudden, one day, it's right in my face. And then furthermore, when I decide that it's time to hang it up, and for the betterment of myself, for my son, and for my family, to have the opportunity to do it in such a grand fashion, you don't get that all the time. And I don't want to say I'm blessed, but I'm pretty damn fortunate to have it happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is the funny thing is, just last year, we were talking about and you finally got to the conclusion of this was going to be your last year in wrestling because there was a moment with your son and we talked about it and everything. And now it comes to that apex. And we just talked before off air. Your son, who's very smart by a lot of means, looked at you and asked you if you were done. Like, is this it? And you said, he's like, yes, I'm done. And because there's 2 other shows going on this weekend elsewhere, and you'd be like, if it was a few years ago, yeah, it would be a whole weekend thing easily. But with the changes and everything, you're like, this is it. This is the best way to go out. It's a cage match.
Exactly. And I mean, it's like I've talked to guys recently who are like, oh, that's so cool that you're doing that. And I mean, there's 2 cage matches. There's Swinger Sadusky, who I absolutely respect, and Jeff Starr going at it in a singles match. And then, we've got our tag team cage match. I mean, it's like the show falls on our shoulders in order to carry this immense load. And that is kind of like, them saying, hey, we have faith in you to go out one more time. And you're right. Like, there was a time period in my life where, if I was booked Friday, Saturday, Sunday, hell yeah, I would do it. I wouldn't care if, and this is for better or worse, I'm not saying it's awesome or anything. If my kid was sick, if my ex was sick, if I was sick, it didn't matter. I got in the car and I drove. The snowstorms,
missed birthdays.
It didn't matter.
Yeah.
It was, I need to make this show. Now I'm looking at it, and there are 3 promotions running shows this weekend, all within like a 2-hour, trip. If this were old me, I'd be like, shit, yeah, I'll do a cage match, and then I'll do a tag match, and then I'll do a singles match, and I'll worry about it on Monday. Now I'm just like, okay, so I'm going to wrestle on Friday, and I'm going to dress up like Burt Macklin from Parks and Rec with my girlfriend, who's going to dress up like Janet Snakehole, and we're going to go on a booze cruise on Saturday night, and then I'm going to relax for the rest of the weekend. It's like, there's like a young part of me that's brain is exploding with like, how dare you think of doing that? It's like, priorities change, man. And this has been such an honor to live my dream, that why would I look down on it when one of the things that I've always said in the back of my head was, if I ever got a chance to work a steel cage match, I'd love to. Well, now now you do, and it just happens to be your last one. So go and enjoy it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the thing. You're like, if I ever get that opportunity, I'm going to. And then it's just by complete irony that it's your final match. So you get to cross that off the bucket list in your last match going out.
And it's funny because, you know, I've told people Roddy Piper was one of my, you know, legitimate idols growing up. And, you know, I obviously don't remember the 84, 85, 86 Roddy Piper, but I remember the post They Live Roddy Piper, you know, the shockproof Roddy Piper, the beating the shit out of Gold Dust in a backlot Raw Roddy Piper. And one of the cool things is that, you know, you can go back in the history of Roddy Piper. I got to do a dog collar match like he and Greg Valentine did. You know, I got to do street fights like he did. I've gotten to tell technically great stories like Roddy Piper did. And now I get to do a steel cage match like Roddy Piper did. You know, it's like, okay, you've literally done everything that you wanted to based on the works of a guy that you looked up to for inspiration. Yeah, this is a cool way to say goodbye.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think the only thing that kind of bugs me about this is you understand, being that you've been around the locker room. When you're away from the locker room, you don't see the guys.
Nope.
You don't.
Like, it's one of the things, and this is kind of pulling the curtain back a little bit, as we call it. It's one of the things of, in pro wrestling, for the most part, you don't see the guys outside of show day. You may have close relationships with a couple of guys that you see every so often, but for the most part, you see them on day of the show.
Yeah. And the bittersweet part of it is that I know that after Friday, with the exception of, you know, a few guys, the people that I worked with in the wrestling business, I'm not going to see them. You know, will I end up running into them maybe in public? There's a few guys that I run into while I'm around, and it's often nice to you know, shoot shit with them. But for the most part, I also know that with a great deal of them, I'm not going to ever see them again.
Yeah.
So there's this weirdness to it where, you know, I'm going to have to come to terms with that. But, you know, the one thing that is good is I can still see what they're doing on social media, and I can still follow them because, like I've told people, you know, I'm a fan of pro wrestling. Obviously, you can tell I'm on a pro wrestling podcast every week. And the cool part about it is that I see guys now that I would love to see take the next step. Like, as funny as it sounds, I've been on shows with Donovan Dijak. I've been on shows with Bobby Fish. You know, I've been on shows with Ace Romero. I've been on shows with a lot of these guys. And to see them going on, you know, Nyla Rose, I mean, the list goes on and on. To see some of these people going on and doing this, it's cool to see it, but it's also cool to watch the guys that are around now and say, I can see certain ones of them going on to bigger and better things. And it's cool to at least know that at one point we had a conversation in a locker room about the Terminator series or a superhero movie. You know, it's like, it's cool to be able to say, I had those moments as well.
Yeah.
Those are the moments that are going to sit with me, not necessarily matches.
Absolutely. And what's funny is earlier today I was hanging out with Eric Emanon, Thomas Burrington. Both Eric Emanon pretty much has left the business for family reasons. And Thomas Burrington, of course, coming up his last match in November. We were just talking, and both of them guys have said earlier, it's like they're comfortable with where they're at, but they're living vicariously through other guys that they know, that they've become friends with, and everything that they see doing all these big things, like Ace Austin and Impact Wrestling.
Yeah, and I mean, the one thing that I love seeing is the these guys going out there and killing it. And, you know, even this weekend, like, there's several matches that I can't wait to see on some of these shows coming up. And I'm just like, you know, damn, I'd like to be in the locker room to see that. But at the same token, you know, I know that once Friday's over with, it'll be nice just to go away and really concentrate on, you know, family and my Spartan racing.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people who respect that, which is the good part. You know, I'm sure that there's a couple of people that are like, you always have your haters who are probably going to sit there and be like, oh, he thinks he can just do so great at these races. It's like, yeah, I do. It's confidence. It's confidence in my ability as a racer. And it's confidence in the crew that I have that supports me. And shockingly enough, some of them are the guys in the locker room that I've become great friends with.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is the thing is we all have those outlets now that for the most part, like I've been doing the wrestling thing, refereeing, announcing since 2009. For the most part, everybody that I kind of have been on the road with, have worked shows with, is now getting to the point of being done and leaving everything. But we all have other outlets, so to speak, that fill that space.
You know, I know guys who got out who are comedians that perform every weekend in front of a crowd. That's an outlet. I know dudes that are doing Highland game training because they're going to be doing the log throwing, rock throwing, you know, barbarian kind of shit. And I know dudes like yourself and the IndyCar Mafia have gotten really big back into baseball, which is one of their first loves. You know, I know dudes who got out and did podcasts, and a very successful podcasts where they go to conventions and they can fill a small hall just to hear them talk. And that is an amazing feeling. For someone like me, you know, I was lucky that I discovered Spartan racing while I was still in pro wrestling, because I guess that gave me a new addiction to walk away to, you know, and in due time, we'll see how successful that has been for me. I just like to see all the guys that I guess you could say were in the class that I was with over the last, 10 years. I'd like to see them find happiness and success in their lives. And, some of them are starting families. Some of them already have families. Some of them are reconnecting with themselves. By all means, I cannot wait to see those journeys that those guys are on, because for me, the post-wrestling life is going to be a really great one. I'm not concerned with that. I just like seeing other people that I'm friends with be as successful and happy as I'm attempting to be.
Oh, absolutely. I'm the exact same way. But to wrap up here, we're going to talk a bit of major news that has happened in the last couple of days. Of course, WWE every October has their annual video game release. And this year, WWE 2K20 was released. And the feature was the Women's Revolution and everything. But unfortunately, it has not gone the way that WWE may have liked. Very negative reviews. If you've watched live streams of the games, graphics are very choppy. There's major glitches. And it even got trending on Twitter, fix WWE.
Yeah, the glitch. So I have nothing for this one, because over the years there have been little funny glitches in video games.
Yep.
None in which a precarious position between two female wrestlers and a referee in the middle of a ring. I think the closest thing was the live sex show.
Yep.
Edge and Lita had.
Yep.
But even the bra and panty matches that they had on the old SmackDown versus Raw, not as bad as this one. Because, I mean, it looks... For the audience, it looks like something you'd see on Brazzers.
Yeah, pretty much. And the main glitch that we're discussing right now was, I believe, and there were a couple of glitches. The main one, there was a match where the user was using Dakota Kai and Ronda Rousey, and like they threw Rousey into the ladder, and the ladder broke, and then magically disappeared like it was a ghost.
There's been that one. There's the figure 8 by Charlotte, where the referee opens his legs and it looks like she is giving fellatio to him.
Yes.
While her opponent may be doing something in the posterior area of Charlotte.
Yes.
That one I saw. There have been a few glitches that people are reporting. I guess that, okay, for me, this is what happens when you try and up the ante with a video game every year and you try and invest it. You know, there's going to be these glitches. Good thing there's patches. Now it's not like the old school days where there was no Wi-Fi connection to it and you bought the game and that was it.
Yep.
You know, like back in the day when you would have a Hell in a Cell match and you just keep bouncing and then you have to turn your system off. I know that happened many a times with SmackDown versus Raw. But the best part about it is that with technology now, you can live stream this shit and it stays for infinity online.
Yep, it does. And the thing is in the culture and time that we are, there's like legitimate people that make money off streaming video games, and only a certain type of video game too. Because people sponsor them and whatnot. And unfortunately, you're now at the point of people hashtagging fix WWE or WWE gets fixed or whatever, and people talking about how they're going to find N64 and go start playing No Mercy. And on top of that, there's been numerous reports about if the AEW game that potentially could be developed is going to be developed in the same sense of No Mercy.
And, you know, that would be cool for me because there's a love of those old school games.
Yes.
And, you know, I just saw it today. I mean, I know this isn't wrestling related, but follow me here. Lion King and Aladdin.
Yes.
The video games are getting re-released for $100 limited edition runs for Super Nintendo and Genesis.
Yep.
Sons of bitches, I got those sitting on my shelf right now if you want the original versions. Like, they're not going anywhere.
Yeah, and that's the thing.
$100, you can take them.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and what's funny is, like, they're coming in the special casing and everything, and then on top of that, they're being remastered into actual games for this generation's systems.
Yeah, and to me, one of the best parts about it is it's like these kids are going. Have you seen the video of the dad who lost to his son in Call of Duty? So he hooked up the N64,
yep.
Put up GoldenEye,
yep.
And the kid wanted to walk away because the graphics looked like crap. The dad's like, "Oh no, we're playing. Okay, every single one of us is that dad, and we're just waiting for our moment to shine."
Yeah. We're just like waiting for a moment to shine to the basic point of when these games get released actually on PS4 and Xbox and Nintendo Switch. I'm assuming it's going to be Nintendo Switch as well. We're going to be like, if they're like remastered graphics, case in point, like the Disney Afternoon Party game that I have on my PS4 was, where it was Rescue Rangers, Tailspin, DuckTales and that.
Uh-huh.
if it's the same graphics as that, just kind of cleaned up and remastered, that's what it's going to be. The kids today are going to be like, what is this? And we're going to be like, listen, here, try to beat this level. You have 4 lives. That's it. No cheats, no nothing. You have 4 lives. Beat this level.
Well, like, I'm not spilling anything out of the bag because he's not here, but I'm buying my kid the Genesis Mini.
Yeah.
For Christmas. He loves Sonic. But, like, I played my Nintendo with him the other day. My girlfriend and I were sitting on the floor with him. He's playing Super Mario Brothers 3, and he doesn't understand why he's dying. I'm like, bro, I want you to imagine being you at 8 years old, only me, and realizing this is the lives you had. There was no cheat code. There was no infant life. This was it, bitch. Like, I wanted to get in his face and just be like, you don't know anxiety and depression until you've made it to world number 8 and you lose.
Yep.
And walk away from him.
Yep. And what's funny is I've had Eric has it now because I finished playing with it and his 2 older kids love it. I had the NES Classic and I played through it and everything. And as good and as old as I am, and I'm much older and I know and I remember everything, that feeling of like building lives and having like 17 lives going into World 8 in Super Mario Brothers 3. It's like, yo, I'm good. At whatever age I was, I'm like, yo, I got 20 lives. I'm good. Plus I have these and whatnot. I was now 34 when I got that, and I had the same setup. I had like 15 lives, and I had my whole little chest built up. I got to Bowser and ended up dying on my last life, and I was just like, yo, I'm done. F this. Now I realize why I have anxiety and depression in my lives.
Exactly. Like, kids will never understand what it is like to not have infinite lives. Like, my kid plays Pokemon Go.
Yes.
I'm out of Pokeballs. Okay, here's 20 balls for 99 cents.
Yep.
I almost want to look up and be like, well, how do you earn them, bitch? And just walk away. But that would be bad parenting.
There is one, I always told myself there's one meme that I came across a few years ago, or not even a meme. It's the image of the AOL dial-up screen.
Yes.
And above it says, to build characters in my kids, I make them stare at this for 5 minutes before turning on the Wi-Fi.
A couple weeks back, to add on to this, someone actually put that picture of the AOL sign-on screen along with the AOL sign-on noise.
Oh.
And Logan heard it, and he looked up, he goes, that's annoying. And I just stared at him slowly, like I was just like, son, you have no idea how annoying that sound is.
Yeah. And what's funny is I actually did it with the Adobe Premiere. I went in and found the image, found a video of it without the sound, found the sound, and then found like the video that does like the thing where it's like dialing, can't connect, dialing, can't connect, and then finally does it. And then I found the sound for it, and I matched it up, and it's saved on my computer. And I'm like, at one day I'm going to have a child, and this child is going to angrily piss me off, where I'm going to have to turn off the Wi-Fi or something, and then to get it back after the X amount of time that I've taken it away from, till he's going to have to sit through this 7-minute video before I turn the Wi-Fi on.
It's so worth it. Absolutely worth it.
And I'm just going to sit there and just be like, this noise is annoying. You have no idea.
Just grab him by the face like Billy Madison and be like, you don't know. You just don't know.
Exactly. But that's going to do it for us here at the TTRP. Thank you for listening. We will be back in a couple of days with another episode, more wrestling news, because wrestling news is ever going on, especially in this day of age of where there's wrestling 6 out of 7 days a week.
And no sleep is had by all.
Yes, no sleep at all. Not to mention the WWE network keeps adding new shit.
Sons of bitches.
They're like, hey, we're putting more Mid-South wrestling episodes on tomorrow. Well, God, now I gotta watch those too.
Yeah, and by the way, if you get an opportunity, I recently went back and watched the Goldberg Chronicles episode.
Yes.
Talked about. It's actually pretty good.
It is.
It's a really good documentary. So, I mean, it's worth it just for the few minutes. And also, I watched the Untold It's Gotta Be Kane. Really good stuff.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. You know what? The WWE has always been very good with documentary material.
Oh, yes. And now that they kind of are just like, yeah, well, we're going full bore with it, and we're just going to pull back the curtain completely.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. They've done a marvelous job with their product.
Yeah, between the Chronicles and the Untold and the WWE 24 series, they've done marvelous jobs with it.
Yes, they have.
But that's going to do it for us. Tune in to our next episode. We're going to have more news. And of course, next week, Wednesday, day before Halloween, we're going to have a full episode dedicated to moments and memories of WCW Halloween Havoc.
Yeah.
Whoa, wait, before you go, remember to listen to the commercials following this episode here, and that helps support us in a very, very easy way. You can turn the volume down, just listen to the commercials that are coming, and... Whoa, wait, one more thing. Don't forget to listen to the commercials that follow this podcast, or just let it play. But that is an easy way of supporting this podcast without having to do anything else. Whoa, wait, before you go, please be sure to let... Whoa, wait, before you go, please remember to listen to the commercials following this podcast, because that does help support this podcast and this network entirely. So listen to that podcast and then go about your business. This has been a presentation of the Gear Radio Network.